Hello and good day to you. Our Group 4, will be presenting about civil servants corruption and cronyism. I am Nadia Hanani Binti Ahmad Suhaimi with the metric number 275775 will be presenting about executive summary. Corruption and cronyism are two things that has always been the issue among the civil servants in Malaysia. Many government officers have been caught for doing sorts of unethical issues such as receiving bribes, leaking personal public information, and being biased on who to hire in the sector. The issues arising is often associated with politicians, including ministers, as well as government connected organizations. These unethical issues are among the most dangerous issues that has to be removed immediately and entirely as it can affect the country's economy. Therefore, we will identify and analyze the issues about corruption and cronyism among Malaysian civil servants and discuss ways to solve the issues.
Vietnam minister has been expelled from party over corruption scandal. Also, three charged with graft in separate bunker fuel trading corruption cases. Actually, there is a lot of the corruption cases. My name is Nurdiyana and my metric number is 278320. So what is exactly the corruption? So it is actually a type of dishonest or fraudulent conduct by those in power, typically involving bribery. Corruption can happen anywhere, in business, government, the courts, the media, and also in civil society, as well as across all sectors from health and also sports. When corruption occurs within an organization, unflattering media coverage typically follows. This has led to the customers losing trust in the company business practice and also products. This is so unethical behavior that we should avoid. In order to prevent the corruption, there must be a strong focus on education, which must reinforce best business practices and also alert managers and employees where to look for the corruption. A robust control of environment also will reduce the risk of corruption, as due through the background checks before hiring or promoting the employees. So that's all for the corruption cases. My name is Athirah and thank you.
Good evening to Mr. Raju. My name is Siti Khairunisa binti Isa and my metric number is 275561. Now, I will continue on the ethical issue related to civil servant cronyism. Besides corruption issue among civil servants, there is other highlight issue which is cronyism. Cronyism is the arrangement of companions and partners to imported, influential places without appropriate respect to their capabilities or qualification. In other words, this will prompt the deviant workplace behavior, and that implies dysfunctional of behaving or another term unethical behavior. This issue arising is often associated with politicians including minister as well as government connected organization. For instance, during Mahathir rule during the 1980s to mid-1990s, the period saw a time of power consolidation by the long-ruling pioneer. The 1997 Asian financial crisis brought change to Malaysia politics issue with the aftermath among Mahathir and afterward Deputy Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. The terminating and resulting conviction and imprisoning of the last option for charges of sexual deviancy have heightened the political passion in the country, particularly among the Bumiputras. Anwar, his relative and supporters hit the Reformation movement, which moved nearer regard for the issue of corruption, cronyism and nepotism that has damaged Malaysian governmental issue and financial aspect. Moreover, the execution of the new economic policy in 1970 denoted the start of the public authorities' dynamic cooperation in the Malaysia economic and capital business sector. This set out immense open doors for CRONYISM and political support. During Mahathir Mohamad's 22 years presidency as fourth Prime Minister, numerous legislature, public ventures and administration were privatized. The privatization practice made countless GLCs which were recorded on the Bursa Malaysia. Malaysia also experienced sensational development in the quantity of political connected firms. For instance, HICOM was laid out in 1980 by Mahathir Mohamad to lead Malaysia's aspiration for Malaysia to be an industrialized country. To accomplish this goal, HICOM and other associate firms were chosen by the public authority to get simpler admittance to bank credit. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Miza Nurdiyana, matrix number 275714. I will proceed with analyze the ethical issues and demonstrate the ability to apply the ethical theory and concept. Bribery. Bribery is the offering, giving, receiving, or soliciting of any item of value to influence the action of an official or other person in charge of a public or legal duty. With regard to governmental operation, essentially bribery is corrupt solicitation, acceptance, or transfer of value in exchange for official action. Many situations exist where distant relatives of civil servants establish business to sell items and services to ministry, department, agency, university, municipal government, and schools. Only a small percentage of these are ever discovered, and even fewer are actually dealt with if they are. Shares mislead deprive SME of significant commercial prospect to supply government organization, universities, and even school. When numerous bidders for a contract are ultimately owned or managed by the same person or organization, tender might be rigged. Because tender parameters are frequently improvised, one bidder may be preferred. For example, the MACC has detained a number of bank workers for soliciting bribes in exchange for approving commercial and personal loans. 6 bank workers were accused of accepting 18 million ringgit Malaysia in bribes from loan applicants in the most recent case. To approve loan, bank staff took between 15 and 35% of the loan value from 110 applicants, claiming that their application didn't match loan eligibility condition. When SME apply for government SME funding, they are subjected to similar scam. SME owners are recommended to hire a consultant to prepare the application for a fee ranging from 25 to 50% of the award value. Next ethical issue that we can see from Malaysian civil servant is leak privacy data of other. A private data leak is an accidental disclosure of information that exposes sensitive detail which define our identity. This can include information such as our date of birth, your email, username and password, home address, phone number, and medical history. This breach of personal information is incredibly perilous not only for unwitting victims but also for our collective online privacy. Once in cyberspace, a hostile individual can use the information for a variety of purposes, including social media impersonation, cyber attack, and digital identity theft. For example, as we know, in 2014, government announced that some UPSR question paper have been cut off and the candidates are directed to retake the paper because there was a teacher who had given a leaked question to his student. The absence of this good quality in the individual and society can lead to criminal and moral improper behavior such as corruption, breach of trust, stealing, oppression, cheating, and others. Therefore, it is not wrong if we say that the leakage in the UPSR question paper is related to the lack of integrity among our society in general and among civil servants in particular. The deontology theory is one of the ethical theory that fit the bribery and privacy data leak issues. Deontology is an ethical philosophy that asserts that actions are either good or bad based on a set of principles. It gets its name from the Greek word deon, which means obligation. Acts that adhere to this norm are ethical, whereas actions that do not adhere to this rule are unethical. Immanuel Kant, a German philosopher, is most closely linked with this ethical system. Integrity when carrying out obligation is one of the ethical concepts that we need to have when dealing with the issue of corruption among civil servants. Integrity is a set of exceptional attributes that exist in its completeness and is present in both individual and organization. Integrity concerns are intertwined with questions of ethics and accuracy in one's conduct and as a member of an organization. The integrity of civil servant refers to a person who holds multiple positions of trust in the government. The civil servant in question must be act in good faith and trust in accordance with their jurisdiction and responsibility, be transparent, have no personal conflict, be excellent, and follow all rules and law as prescribed. That's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter.
Next, I will be talking about the issue of cronyism. There is some favoritism occurring, and a hefty amount of money has been spent towards crony companies. Cronyism affects the public sectors and the people of a country and also harm the common good in public sphere. When someone is hired due to his or her connections rather than because of their qualifications and experience, the service they provide may cause the public to suffer. The problem with cronyism is how some people may call it normal under the term networking, connections, and family. But the issue here is the level of competency. Many positions as the civil servants in Malaysia has been filled with only those who qualified because their families are already in the position in the association. By this, the public officials should be aware that this behavior is seen as very unfair by the people. As an example, Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission (MACC) caught a total of 7 civil servants for joining hands in the tender cartel case. This case involves a total of 150 companies with the amount of governmental projects totaling 3.8 billion ringgit. Next, the ethical theory that can be discussed in the cronyism issue is utilitarianism. It is the most frequent approach to business ethics. Rule utilitarianism seeks to benefit the greatest amount of people using the most equitable means possible. Meanwhile, act utilitarianism encourages people to take the most ethical actions feasible for the greater good. And lastly, the ethical concept that can be discussed is the concept of right and justice. For questions about social justice, the principle of justice and fairness might be viewed of as fair play regulations. These principles, whether they are based on the universal law or ones that are more context specified, dictate how various sorts of justice are carried out. That is all from me. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you so much.
Hi, have a nice day everyone, especially to lecturer. My name is Muhammad Ihsan with metric number 275523. I will present part such as way to solve the issue. First way to solve the issue of corruption is more aggressive government action to combating corruption among civil servants. Through the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission (MACC) must take serious and honest action in completing tasks regardless of rank and position because the member are an independent body appointed. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission (MACC) must prioritize concentrating on certain sector or region regarded as the underlying cause of corruption, expansion and intensification. Next point is MACC members need to go down to oppose corrupt activities and act in discuss like ordinary people to investigate complaints reported on corrupting cases. As a result, people implicated in corruption can be arrested and harshly punished under national law. This more aggressive and transparent action must be carried out on a constant and dedicated basis so that no more civil servants entrusted with carry out their obligation become entangled with the symptoms of corruption that may harm a country. Next, the second way to solve the issue of corruption is implementing meaningful anti-corruption training. Training must not only assist people in understanding what is and is not acceptable, but it must also implement the proper behaviors. The government needs to take this program seriously by investing harsh funds to make this plan a success to increase integrity and trust from subordinate to higher position. The second point is this training can be implemented annually by placing important input on self-ethics so that public officers become a professional individual. High professionalism is a talent that someone have in executing his task that constant some threat or aspect. Besides that, appropriate mechanism for preventing activity corruption must be introduced in training. At the same time, the civil service must offer fair and excellent service efficiently and effectively via collaborative effort, devotion, and innovation with a focus on people priorities. Finally, meaningful training in dealing with the issue of corruption, especially the leakage of privacy information in civil servant, must be implemented successfully for the sake of peaceful and prosperous country. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Miza Binti Awaluddin with metric number 275820. I would like to continue presenting about the ways to solve issue of CRONYISM. The first issue is spend hefty amount to only crony. There were several ways to solve this issue. Firstly, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC task and responsibility be reviewed by the government. This will allow the MACC to lead a community-wide anti-corruption education campaign, conduct more effective prevention activities, conduct investigation more efficiently and fairly, and make credible amendment recommendations on all public sector standards and policy that may encourage corruption. Next, civil servants who process, evaluate, certify, manage, supervise, and approve all parts of taxation, licensing, development project or development project execution at all levels must operate honestly without corruption. The leaders of the public, political, and corporate sectors must all report their assets to a committee led by the Prime Minister. If the declaration of property seems suspicious, the leaders of the departments involved should conduct a true inquiry. Political leaders also should form a strong commitment to preventing corruption in the country, and they must prevent from engaging in crony capitalism corruption. Lastly, officers and public workers, particularly those working for the Custom Department, Immigration, the Inland Revenue Board, and the police must guarantee that they do not work for this government agency for an excessive amount of time. Those who have worked for more than 3 years should be transferred to another unit or department within the agency or to a different ministry to ensure that they do not abuse their position to commit corruption or cronyism. We move to the second issue about cronyism, hiring crony companies to hire. First way to solve this problem is we must eliminate the negative political symptoms. This is important, especially during the decision-making process, to ensure that the decisions are not influenced by self-interest. Dishonesty, false morals, ignorance, and fraud are all encouraged by behavior like this. Things like this must be controlled and not permitted to continue since they affect the organization's integrity. So, even if something appears to be extraordinary, don't be quickly drawn into the act of politicizing it. Secondly, try to replicate your superior's behavior. Every boss or manager has a different attitude and leadership style. They have distinct preferences. Many people have tense working relationship with their manager. This issue can generate stress and disrupt work relationship. Take the opportunity to learn more about the other person and gain a better understanding of them. Last but not least, we must put our own survival first. Any actions and decisions must be made with integrity and responsibility. Avoid getting into conflict as much as possible, especially physical confrontation. To avoid all of this, each person must put their own interests and position first, before considering the organization's value, morals, and standards. In other words, it must prioritize its own survival over everything else, and it must avoid using dirty political techniques to the parties determine. As a conclusion, there will be various positive impacts that will be faced by our country Malaysia if there is no corruption and cronyism among civil servants. MACC must develop strategies to achieve zero corruption and cronyism among civil servants cases in our country so that our country gives the peaceful vibe to the world. The government should develop ways to strengthen the economy and people's self-sufficiency so people are not interested to involved with corruption and cronyism because people have their own ability to achieve their goals. A country that is competitive and maintains its image in the eyes of the world is formed by stable and successful people with a strong national economy. That's all from Group 4. Thank you.